If stars Ryan Reynolds and is written and directed by John Krasinski. If is about a movie, a young girl who goes through a difficult experience begins to see everyone's imaginary friends who have been left behind as their real life friends have grown up. And the girl in this, Cailey Fleming, does a pretty good job. The immediate standout here is that the acting is fairly competent, and we should expect that from John Krasinski because he did A Quiet Place Part 1 and Part 2, right? In which he proved to us that he can take a small little concept and just totally deliver. Now, if you saw the trailers for this and were kind of like, well, this looks like should be reasonably fun. It's got some CGI creatures in there. The voice acting seems to be on point, which it is. And I like Ryan Reynolds. And I like this concept of imaginary friends. Now, this movie does have some dramatic tension in there that may not be for everybody. As you noted there in the premise, a young girl goes through some difficult experiences. Basically, death. And if you are worried about it being a little too close to the concept in Inside Out, where you've got to say goodbye to your imaginary friends, it's actually not like that at all. My major criticism with this film is that it's got some pacing issues in here, especially during the second act, where it's kind of like, where are we going with the story? Are you going to actually definitively come down and say something? And it does. It just takes a long time to get there. It's luckily held together by the young girl and Ryan Reynolds, who have a great rapport. It doesn't have a few kind of like twists and turns in there, some reveals that are kind of unexpected, yeah, and I felt like that worked. But it just, towards the end, is kind of like, well, guys, you should have revealed that stuff earlier because I would have been more, well, engaged with it. It just kind of lingers too long, and that just goes to the running time of it being an hour and 44 minutes. If this had like 10 minutes chopped out, I think it would have been a little bit tighter, and I think it would have been a little bit better received than that 6.8 that we see there on the IMDb score. I will go over and take a look at the tomato meter here in just a minute, but at first I want to pull up my little score sheet and fill in some numbers. If you don't know, acting, directing, and story are out of a possible 2 points each. Cinematography and score are 1 point, if any. Acting is good from the young girl. Acting is good from Ryan Reynolds, so that's 2 performances right there. The voice acting is competent. It's just kind of, well, there's nothing in there that screams Oscar worthy or anything like that. Directing, the visual effects are very well integrated into this. Not as good as, say, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but it's meant for kids. It does have some story issues in here, so I gotta knock the directing for that. The story here. Some people might be a little bit betrayed by this. If you saw like The Bridge to Terabithia or something like that, where they've sold you about this coming of age story, and they sold you that bill of goods, and then it turns out to be about death, and it takes some turns. Some people may feel that kind of reaction. It's like, is this what I signed up for? Is this what you're going to be giving me? What's the message of what you're trying to sell me here? And that could be a reaction you will get by watching If. It's kind of like, what are you trying to tell me here with this story? I don't know if I like it. But John Krasinski's charming in this, and Ryan Reynolds is also really good in this. Story-wise, though, it kind of lacks that punch that Inside Out had about the imaginary friend kind of thing. It kind of lacked that. It was trying to do that, and it does hit some notes. So if you haven't seen other movies like this, and this is your first kind of introduction to the concept of imaginary friends and stuff, and coming of age and stuff, then this will probably work for you. But for me, it was kind of like middle of the road. So with that being said, I'll say 1. Cinematography was competent. The score actually stood out to me in this one. So I'm going to give the score a full point here. and I feel like there's going to be times in here where you'll be like um, humming along with the. It's very cinematic in its scope. So yeah, full point for that. That's putting us around 5.5, and I'm feeling good about that right now. Let's go over to the tomato meter and see what other people are saying about this movie. If oh, yeah. 50% by the critics, 85 by the audience. So there's a big disparity there. Um, Critics are not liking this, and probably for the reasons that I said. Some pacing issues in there, um, themes like what are you trying to say here exactly, right? Uh, and if you're not like paying that much attention to like story structure and how the narrative is unfolding, like if you're not being that critical, then you're probably going to like this. 85% by the audience. Let's see if some of the snapshot reviews here corroborate what we're saying here. Reefer Guzman says, sweet and sincere, though not the heart squeezer it could have been, but he liked it. Chicago Reader didn't like it. If is an imaginary friend that's best left unseen. Audience, people who liked it. It was an adorable movie. Definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I originally thought it would be. Was a tearjerker, and I cannot wait to watch it again. Well, it's not really a tearjerker, but let's go and take a look at some of the other critics. So the audience is liking it. Let's see if anybody jumps out at me here name-wise, and we'll take a look at their reviews. Richard Roper didn't like it. This well-intentioned and intermittently clever blend of live action and animation is so murky and slow-paced. The grown-ups will get restless while it falls short when it comes to creating truly memorable CGI characters and providing a true sense of joy. I have to admit, there were a couple times during the second act where I did look at my watch. And that goes to the slow pacing there in the second act. So he's knocking it for that. That just goes into what my earlier criticism was. So, yeah. Anybody else in here that we recognize? I'm looking for somebody like a Stuckman or a Jeremy Johns. Alonzo, I'm sorry, but your review for Strangers, or was it Strangers? Yeah, or no, Furiosa. I didn't like that. Okay, Wendy Lee Zaney, we trust her. The story is very heartfelt and has a lot of touching moments. Can definitely see the angle Krasinski was going for. Would have liked to see more lighthearted moments rather than being weighed down by the serious tone. And there's like a side story with another kid inside the hospital that kind of really doesn't go anywhere. That totally like if you cut that storyline out of the movie, you wouldn't felt like you've lost anything from the main focus of the story. So that's what I mean. Like it goes off in these little side tangents that really bog down the pacing of the middle of the film. New York Times. What's more impressive, Krasinski's imagination or the very real friends in his Rolodex? So, yes, you could tell from the voice roll call in this that there's a lot of famous people in this, and they came out to bat because they're all friends. And what's wrong with that? I got nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking it for that at all. Some people are, and I find that your criticism on that to be a little bit, well, repugnant, if you don't mind me saying, if you don't mind me being so bold. All right. Nobody else is jumping out at me here. Bibiani. There's somebody who jumps out. It's totally discombobulated and nowhere near as enchanting as Michael Giacchino's score seems to think it is. Yeah, and he's giving a nod to the score there as well. That's why I gave that a full point, because the score does kind of, they do a very good job of using the same theme over and over again, kind of like like their version of the Imperial March kind of thing. So that worked for me. All right. So you get the picture here. Pacing, a little bit of the voices, but overall, I would say that 50% is low. 85 is a little bit high for if. Let's go to my score sheet and round this out for my final score, because we were sitting at 5.5 before going into this, right? So the watchability factor, if you are curious about John Krasinski or Ryan Reynolds and see what they want to go or what they're doing with this property, I would say go to see it for that. I would say that it's worthwhile seeing in the theater for sure. Would I watch it again? I'm not going to go out and I'm not running to go out and watch this again. 6.5 that's where that brings us. Can I give it any more? I'd be struggling to find out where. Could I give it to cinematography maybe? It is beautifully shot. It's luscious, but there's nothing in like big sweeping shots or anything like that. I guess when they go into sort of an imaginary world, that was kind of interesting. Could I bump that up for cinematography and give us a 7 out of 10? I feel a little bit more comfortable giving it a 7 out of 10, so I think I will, because of those imaginary sequences that were very heavily influenced by things like Labyrinth, Alice or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where it's kind of like, okay, we're going down a huge rabbit hole here, and it's just kind of like letting your imagination go. But it does have some story issues. It does have some pacing issues, and 7 out of 10 feels right about for me. And I think that's where I'm landing. 7 out of 10 for If. What do you guys think? Have you gone out to see it? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and we will talk about it. Luke Gossett Jr., there. Is this one of his final performances? I think so, right? He's just in the voice cast because, as I said earlier, the voice cast in this is fairly extensive. There's no mid-credit scene in here or anything like that. Steve Carell is Blue. Lewis is Luke Gossett Jr. May he rest in peace. So, yeah. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments and we will talk about it. Hey, if you like to talk movies and such, we're about to review an abstract art house film called I Saw the TV Glow. And of course, here on the channel, we talked about the new Superman suit. Watched trailers for The Rings of Power Season 2, House of the Dragon 2, Megalopolis, movie reviews for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, The Strangers Chapter 1, and Tarot. I need to update that. Fallout, full series reactions, and then we do movie news throughout the week where we talk about all the trending movie news headlines out there, guys. And now we're going to talk about I Saw the TV Glow. You're watching Mirror Domains.